Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 4 of Paradise Preview. I'm Josh Gaffney. Joining me here is Mr. Graham Wilson from Beyond the Waves. Tonight we're looking at Celtic's game against Ross County. So we're coming up against SPL newcomers Ross County. Obviously they shocked us in the Scottish Cup a few seasons ago. What do you think about our opponents, Graham?
Well, certainly they're not to be taken lightly. I mean, obviously we have to look at this game in the context of the broader picture. Yes, we're coming back from a one-time preseason, or I guess it's not even preseason, it's the middle of the season, but it's a friendly nonetheless against Real Madrid in Philadelphia. Unfortunately, we picked up several key injuries while we were here. First off, Dylan McGeoch is going to be out for 4 to 5 weeks. Fortunately, it's not looking like it's going to be long-term damage, and it's not certainly going to affect his long-term career prospects. That's good. Darryl Murphy pulled his hamstring, so he's going to be out for the foreseeable future, which would see him through the transfer window. Anthony Stokes and Gary Hooper are both carrying knocks as well. And, you know, I said before, in a broader context, I mean, obviously we have one eye on that tie coming up against Helsingborgs on Tuesday. So, you know, we need to obviously employ some squad rotation here. We need to rest players that need resting, and then maybe get some players in that have the ability, maybe didn't quite get as much of a look as they should have thus far. One player in specific is Victor Wanyama. You know, obviously he picked up the red card in the previous tie at Helsinki, so he's not going to be available on Tuesday anyway. This is a game for him to come in, solidify his position, really boss that middle of the park. Where we've seen him, just employ a vast amount of talent. Ross County side, you know, they've come up against 2 0-0 results thus far. But you know, Josh, tell us a little bit about their prowess last season. I mean, they finished 24 points ahead in the Scottish First Division, which is quite competitive, isn't it?
Yeah, the First Division is always competitive. You can't really predict who's going to get promoted until, you know, maybe the last 2 months. But, you know, Ross County, you know, ran away with it last season. They didn't lose a single game. You know, they're tight at the back, and they had a good attack. Got 3 goal scorers getting over 10 goals throughout the season, which is quite good for Division 1. So far in the transfer window, they've done well. They've signed a few strong SPL players. A former player from Dundee United. They've got one former Celtic player. You might remember him, Rocco Quinn. He was a central attacking midfielder for Celtic, but he didn't play. But he didn't play against Aberdeen, so I'm not sure if he'll be playing against Celtic. But definitely Ross County, they're a well organised side. They've got a decent manager. They've got a organised defence and decent experienced strikers.
Yeah, no question. I mean, you bring up Derek Adams, obviously one of the rising stars of Scottish managers, and you bring up their performance in this First Division last season with a commanding victory there in that league, that division. Now, some of the players that they've picked up SPL qualities. I mean, Russ Tokley in the defense there. You have Gary Glenn. You know, who's a sort of a blast from the past, if you will, from Hearts. You mentioned Kovacevic from Dundee United, so they do have some experienced players. Now, some of that firepower up front for Ross County, you know, obviously they haven't scored any goals thus far this season. A couple of 0-0 draws. Wake me up when it's over. But some of the dynamic goal scorers, I guess, if you will, for their side. Colin McMenamin scored 20 goals last season in the First Division. He's obviously featured in these first 2 games. I would definitely want to keep an eye on him. It's 31-year-old center forward, being paired up top with Sam Morrow. So, not really quite sure what we're going to come up against. But, as always, we do need to be mindful of them playing us on the break. Now, with that being said, I mean, we do have experience playing away to Ross County. It's a bit of a tighter pitch. That doesn't always lend itself to our style of play. With both Gary Hooper and Anthony Stokes carrying injuries at this point, it may be prudent, at least in my opinion, to rest them for this particular game. And this might be another opportunity to play Georgios Samaras up top by himself. Your thoughts there, Josh?
The interesting thing about the Ross County side for Samaras is Ross Tokely being at right back. Ross Tokely, as you may or might not know, he's not very fast right back. He's not going to go bombing out the wing. He is a very strong player. He's one of the strongest players in Scottish football, but he's definitely not got that bit of pace in him, and he's definitely starting to age. That's probably why he's not at Inverness anymore. So I think Ross Tokely is the kind of player that Samaras will like to come up against. And Ross County, I watched a game against Aberdeen, and there was quite a lot of space in between the midfield and defence. The sort of space that Samaras likes to get into. So I think there's a potential that Samaras could do well against Ross County.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it sets up nicely for him. It gives, Gary Hooper and Anthony Stokes a bit of a breather, a bit of a rest going into this European tie, which is absolutely vital away. I mentioned Victor Wanyama. I mean, obviously, he's going to be an absolute must going into this game. Now, Thomas Ronya, Kelvin Wilson, both featured last week against Real Madrid. And to be honest with you, I don't think they did quite that bad. Kelvin Wilson hasn't gotten much playing time thus far. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kelvin Wilson maybe paired up with Charlie Mulgrew at the center half pairing, and then maybe Michael Lustig coming in at right back. Giving Adam Matthews a bit of a break, a bit of a rest, making sure that he's going to be fresh for Tuesday. And I just think that the more Emilio Izaguirre gets the opportunity to play, the better off he's going to be. I mean, he just needs to play his way back into fitness, play his way back into form. So I see no reason to drop him. And same with Chris Commons. I mean, you got to go with guns a-blazing, really. And he's been one of our most dynamic players thus far in this short season. What are your thoughts in terms of starting lineups and maybe some formations?
Well, at the start of the season, obviously it's quite hard to get your squad 100% fit for your starting games. I do think a few players are maybe either a bit tired or a bit lacking in fitness. Adam Matthews, I think he's got a decent amount of fitness to play in this game, but there's the opportunity for Lustig to play. Personally, I think Lustig is more suited as a centre back. Personally,
good point.
So I just stick with Matthews at right back. Centre back, Mulgrew and Ronya would be my first pick. Left back, Izaguirre. Just give him the game time and let him, no pressure. Just get back into the team, get his confidence back, and just get back in his top form without really putting him under any sort of pressure to really shine in the opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
The midfield and up front, I'd just go with a standard 4-4-2. Right wing Commons, and middle Ledley, and you could go with Scott Brown, who is carrying a little bit of a knock, Kyle or Wanyama. Personally, I think Wanyama would be good for this game because he has that physical presence, and he has been not bad so far this season. He was good against Aberdeen when he moved into the midfield.
Mm-hmm.
On the left wing, Samaras, as I mentioned before, and up front, probably Hooper and Stokes. I'm not sure how they are on injuries, but if they're fit, that's who I'd like to see up front.
That makes sense. I would completely sit Hooper and Stokes. I would put Sammy up top by himself. Midfield, I think Scott Brown, he does well in a bigger pitch where he has room to run and rev the engine, so to speak. In tight spaces, I think Wanyama and Kyle are definitely the ideal pairing there in the midfield, but maybe a 4-1-4-1 formation would be nice here. Just having Wanyama, the bomber, right in the middle, protecting the center half pairing there. So have the back four of I like the back four that you laid out there. Maybe bring in Lustig just to give Adam Matthews a bit of a break. I mean, got to remember he's still 20 years old. But Wanyama right there, right in front of the bank of four defenders. And the four players in the middle of the park, I'd have Scott Brown on the right side, Wanyama, Kyle, Ledley. Yes, it's a bit of a neutral, it's a bit of a narrow midfield. But I think on a tighter pitch for a side that's really going to try and keep it compact. I mean, let's think back to that Ibrox game New Year's a couple of years ago, where we had that it was almost like a 4-5-1, but there was a diamond in the middle with two wingers on the side, and then obviously Sammy up top. I think that's ideal, like you mentioned. Exploiting some of that space in between their midfield bank of four and their defenders. That's really where Sammy shines and exploits his pace going up against some defenders that may be a bit long in the tooth and short on pace. So, I think, a bank of four there, it's hard to drop Commons as well. I mean, it's such a tough decision. But I think that Commons at this point has played a lot of football. We're sort of playing with fire here. I mean, he sort of teetered in and out of the starting 11 last season, struggling with fitness. Now, he looks like he's dropped a lot of weight. For him for Tuesday's tie and try and nick a 1-0 result away at Ross County. It's not going to be easy. This is a team that's just gotten promoted to the SPL, but they are no mugs. And I think we need to be careful, not just in terms of making sure that we protect and try and make sure we keep a clean sheet, but make sure that we can protect our key players for that tie on Tuesday. Unfortunately, we haven't made any purchases hardly in the transfer window, so we're a bit light in certain circumstances, especially when key players are picking up injuries. My prediction's 1-0. What are your thoughts, Josh?
Well, I think it'd be really tough to stop Ross County from, not getting a goal for the third game in a row. So I'm going to go for 2-1.
2-1, good guys. I like that. Yeah, I can definitely see that. And we will definitely be back probably on Sunday for a preview of the Helsingborg's tie on Tuesday. This is really where we have a lot of our attention. Can't look past this tie on Saturday, but certainly that is an absolutely vital tie, the first leg there. So we'll be coming to you with a preview of that tie as well. And On the Waves will be live at 4 p.m. Celtic Park time on Saturday, bringing you the wrap-up of the Ross County tie. We'll be joined by Paul Arkin and have all the latest after the game.
Good stuff. One final thing I'd like to say about the Ross County game is, although I'd like to see us start a strong side, I wouldn't really like us to see, under any more players or really, then anyone's kind of potential performance against Helsingborg, because obviously that's a really important tie. So, if Gary Hooper or Stokes or any other players are really carrying knocks or a little bit unfit, then, I wouldn't really risk playing them.
Yeah, I'm of the same mindset. I agree.
Yeah. So, this is another episode of Paradise Preview. Thanks for listening. As Graham said, we'll be back on Sunday for the preview of the Helsingborg game.